Arjuna, unable to resolve his predicament, takes shelter of his dear friend Lord Krishna for guidance. And Lord Krishna begins his teachings by establishing I is different than the body, I is eternal, and I is the spirit soul, which answers the perennial question, who am I? Understanding this fundamental wisdom is crucial for creating harmony within and without. To give you an example, once during my travel, I met an American lady who had two members in her family, Aaron, her dog, and Phillips, her husband. And she told me that she loved her dog more than her husband. Intrigued by her revelation, I asked her why, and she gave an interesting answer. She said that her dog loved her, regardless of how she looked. She didn't have to spend her time in front of the mirror or in the beauty salon to look beautiful for her dog. However, for her husband, her appearance was more important to him than she as a person. Apparently, she had no clue about the existence of the soul, but she had understood the superficiality of the relationships based entirely on one's physical appearance. How much ever we may try to preserve our beauty, but it fades away with age. And if our relationships are centered around our physical beauty, then certainly our relationships will also fade away with time. Considering ourselves to be a mere mortal body creates a lot of insecurity and fear. On the contrary, recognizing our true identity as a spirit soul liberates us from all kinds of fears and insecurity, and this is the way to living a harmonious and a blissful life. Someone may ask, how does this knowledge practically affect our day-to-day life? Or, if I am an eternal spirit soul, then what am I supposed to do in my day-to-day life? Krishna addresses this by delineating two essential duties of the soul in verses 31 to 53, where T stands for two dharmas. The word dharma loosely translates as duty, but in its true meaning it refers to intrinsic characteristics and qualities of something that cannot be avoided or negated under any circumstance. For an instance, sugar's intrinsic nature is to be sweet, which is inseparable. Similarly, there is an intrinsic nature of all living entities which is inseparable and cannot be negated. Would you like to guess? You can pause and think for a while about it. The answer is to serve. Either we serve our body and mind, which is different than our true identity, that is soul, or we are serving our family, society, and nation. Thus, Krishna tells Arjuna that there are two essential duties. First, the soul has Sanatana Dharma, an eternal spiritual duty which comprises of one's relationship with the Supreme God and all spirit souls, and it is expressed through hearing about the Lord, chanting His holy names, and serving Him. Secondly, the soul has a Swadharma, a worldly duty, which consists of responsibilities towards family, friends, and society. Krishna reminds Arjuna in verses 31 to 38 about his specific duty as a Kshatriya and its need, that is, worldly happiness comes from proper execution of one's duties. However, Arjuna wanted to give up his worldly duty out of fear of sinful reactions. Thus, Krishna in verses 39 to 53 advises Arjuna to work in a renounced spirit and not to renounce the activity itself. This point is explicitly stated by Krishna in the 47th verse of 2nd chapter. O Arjuna, you have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty. Someone may wonder why Krishna wants Arjuna to perform his duty. What is wrong if Arjuna takes to renunciation? Krishna says the total renunciation of activity is not possible at the beginning stages of spiritual life. It is better to engage in one's duty without attachment to results, which gradually purifies one's consciousness. In essence, Lord wants Arjuna to execute both dharma side by side. Many individuals neglect their spiritual duties, becoming too preoccupied with their worldly duties. On the other extreme, individuals can prematurely reject their worldly duties and falsely try to absorb themselves in spiritual duties. The most progressive path is to be fully alert to both duties. and in doing so lead a happy and a balanced life. Eventually, such a person will become self-realized, that is self-satisfied and fully conscious of one's relationship with the Supreme. Arjuna pondered on Lord's instructions and then inquired about the symptoms of a self-realized person, which brings us to the last section where A stands for Atmana. In text 54, Arjuna asks 4 questions. First, what are the general symptoms of a self-realized soul? How does he speak? How does he sit? And how does he walk? Lord answers the first question in text 55 of chapter 2, where the first question is, what are his general symptoms? Which implies, what are the general description and characteristics of Atmana? Lord Krishna says, such a person is free from any desire for worldly happiness, and all his needs are fulfilled by spiritual practice alone. The second question, where Arjuna asked, how does he speak? Which implies, how does he respond to others' affection, anger, and neutrality? Lord Shri Krishna answers this in 56th and 57th verse, and he says, such a person is neither elated or disturbed. He is free from worldly attachment, fear, and anger. The third question, how does he sit? Which implies how he restrains his senses and mind. And Lord Shri Krishna answers this in 58th and 59th verse of 2nd chapter, where Krishna says, just like the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, similarly, such a person withdraws his senses and mind or engages according to his own will. However, for a common man, it is very difficult to control the demands of mind and senses, and thus everyone helplessly follows the dictates of their mind and senses. Next, Krishna answers the last question, how does he walk? Which implies, how does he engage his senses? And Krishna answers that such a person engages his senses only in my service and finds great satisfaction in it. Finally, Krishna concludes the discussion by telling Arjuna that such a person is never disturbed by the incessant flow of desires and is always peaceful. And this is a way to spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. Arjuna acknowledges, however, he is confused about how to engage in work, yet simultaneously be detached from its results. He thinks it is better to renounce than to engage in worldly duties. In the next episode, we will discuss chapter 3, in which Krishna defines the practice of Karma Yoga, the technique of achieving spiritual connection with Lord through our daily work. Thank you for your kind attention and stay tuned for the next episode.